Religion war between Pastor Abel Damina and Pastor Jerry EZE. What God cannot do does not exist. That is the slogan Pastor Jerry EZE preaches. But our Dr. Abel Damina has said it severally that what God cannot do actually does exist. And he has made this argument severally on several places, several interviews. Also in his church, he has said it severally. And then recently, he still buttressed on that particular point, saying that pastors that are saying what God cannot do does not exist are only lying to their followers. Now, do you know that is actually a shade and a bullet thrown to another pastor? If you ask me, do I like all this religion war going around in Nigeria? No. There are other countries that are just every pastor is doing their thing, every prophet is doing their thing, no pastor is coming for each other. But in Nigeria, of course, we are a large population. So things like that will definitely come up. But if you reason this whole thing, why did he say what God cannot do actually does exist? He mentioned wickedness. He said God cannot be wicked. No matter how things are in life, no matter how you see between the devil and God, there are certain things that God can actually not do, but there are things that God can actually fight the battle for you. If maybe the devil wants to try you, God can fight a battle for you. But God just sitting down there, the devil did not try you, and God just want to be wicked on his own, that God is not a wicked God. So these were his points. He went ahead to also talk about how far some pastors are, just deceiving their fans on prayer grounds, on daily devotional prayers, midnight prayers. If you notice, he was targeting at Pastor Jerry EZE with his midnight prayers, early morning prayers, and all that. Now, I personally, if you ask me, actually, is there anything God does not do? Truly, there are certain things God cannot do. Not that he can't do it, but God himself is not a wicked God, so he will not do certain wicked things. Except maybe even God said in the Bible that he will fight for you, right? So except in cases where maybe a child of God is asking God to fight their battles, then God can stand up and fight. But just God standing up to create wickedness is what he will not do, right? Now, also, one part Pastor Abel Damina doesn't understand Jerry Eze is in the context of what he's saying is a different thing. Like now, if you are praying for something, you're praying for a miracle, you're praying for a job, you're praying to get a husband, you're praying for a child, you're praying for anything. What Pastor Jerry Eze was saying in that context is that there is nothing you ask God to do that he cannot do. Meaning that even as a child of God, if you ask God to fight a battle for you, if you tell God, God, please do this for me. God, please give me this miracle. God, please fight this battle for me. God, please give me a child. God, please, I need a husband. God, please, I need a new job. God, please, I want my business to grow. And there's nothing that you ask of God, as long as you're a child of God, that God cannot do. Are you getting the point? Now, to me, this is the context is coming from. Not that there are certain things if God want to stand up and strike or do certain things, he can't. You get the point? Even God himself sent the devil down to hell from heaven. So there's nothing God actually cannot do. So I think that's where Pastor Jerry Eze was coming from. See, that is the reason why I keep saying this thing, that all this religion banter that these pastors are doing, if they can come together, sit down and have a dialogue, like in a round table, sit down, like French people say, tete a tete, like just sit together, and talk about these things. Maybe the other pastor at the end will listen and say, oh, this is what you meant. And maybe the other pastor too will say, oh, this is what you meant. That we are all serving the same God. Now we're all asking, preaching the same thing to our members. You see, and then everybody will understand, and this fight will not be there, because as it is, let the truth be told, pastors are fighting in Nigeria, because we see shades thrown. Some pastors no longer just preach again. As they are preaching in the middle of the preaching, they are going to throw shade. And I'm not seeing it normal. It's normal. It's people like, normal believers, normal people that's supposed to just be throwing shade. Okay, I'm not saying Christians will not throw shade. Even Christians can throw shade sometimes and say, "Oh God, forgive me. I shouldn't have." You know, Christians also still do bad things and say, "God forgive me." But these days, the way pastors are just throwing shade and fighting on the altar, you see them throwing shade like this. Some pastors will even go ahead to call people names. You get the point? A pastor actually called somebody a cow and said, even in the Bible, God has called somebody animal before. Like Jesus called somebody animal. Because Jesus called somebody animal doesn't mean that a pastor you have a right to also call somebody animal. For me, as a pastor, you're like a mentor, okay? People look up to you. So all this pulpit fight, I think we should just end it. End it. Because we that are the receiving end, because we the members, we are the one at the receiving end. We are actually looking at you people. When this person says something, if you're not careful, you even get confused. When this other person says something, you be like, yeah, this person knows what to say, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then when this other person says something, you say, yeah, yeah, yeah. But later when you put one or two together, you feel that, wait, oh, this person just misunderstanding this other pastor. Because for me, just a misunderstanding. If both of them can come together, or let's say like 15 pastors have, don't they normally have pastors, what do they call, summits? I don't know, is it that they don't have pastor summit in this country? I always see pastor summit in particular churches. Like now Redeem can be having pastor summit, just them. They will not involve winners, they will not involve Salvation Ministry, Dunamis, and the likes. You get the point. For me, I think that there should be pastor summit, except there's a pastor summit. You are watching this video and you know of pastor summits where pastors meet together like for like a week. They will lodge in hotels, they will talk to each other, preach the word of God, and see how the word of God can move forward. If you know that, please just say it under the comment section, because I don't think there's any pastor summit, general pastor summit, or not just redeem pastor summit, like not just winners pastors coming together all over Nigeria. I think they should, because if they actually do, all these fights will not be happening, because I see it as fight right now, because pastors are not really just preaching again, they are shading themselves, and it's not fair. You get the point? Like Abel Damina is somebody that I know he knows the word. Like he knows the Bible very, very well. He interprets the Bible in the language the Bible was written in. He knows how to interpret. Yes, he deeply rooted into the word. But sometimes when he's preaching, the way he will sound, the way he's trying to bring the other pastor down so much. For me, if it's an ordinary person doing it, I will not blame the person, no, because I believe that, oh, you're not a pastor. But when somebody's a pastor, I think, oh, come on now, there's a way you even say certain things. So that's why I'm calling for a summit. Maybe this person can stand up and say, "Oh, Ebe Damina, this was what I was saying, I did not get me." And then Ebe Damina too will say, "This was what I was saying, did not get me," and all this will be solved. Please do well to subscribe to the channel. Bye.